Hi, this is Bill Allen with Thoughts from the Sensitive Man. Today we're going to be talking about men, mental health, and the cost of silence. Men are in trouble. We can see it in the loneliness, we can see it in the anger, we can see it in the addiction, the emotional shutdown, the broken relationships, and the rising suicide numbers. But the deeper crisis may be harder to see. Too many men have been taught to suffer in silence. They've been taught not to cry, not to need, not to ask for help, and not to reveal emotional pain. And that silence has a cost. The mental health crisis facing men is not just about depression or anxiety. It shows up in many forms. It can look like rage. It can look like emotional distance. It can look like drinking too much, working too much, withdrawing from friends, avoiding intimacy, or turning pain into resentment. Many men do not say, "I'm hurting." They say, "I'm fine," or they say nothing at all. And sometimes the silence becomes deadly. Men die by suicide at much higher rates than women. That fact alone should tell us that something is deeply wrong in how men are taught to deal with emotional pain. This crisis did not appear out of nowhere. Over the past several decades, mental health care in America has been weakened, underfunded, and pushed away from the center of public concern. In the 1960s and 70s, the country began moving away from large psychiatric institutions towards community-based mental health care. That was the right idea in principle. But the community supports were never fully built. By 1980, the Mental Health Systems Act was intended to strengthen local mental health services, but in the early Reagan years, much of that support was rolled back, and more responsibility was shifted to the states. Families carried more of the burden. Emergency rooms carried more of the burden. Police departments and jails carried more of the burden. And many struggling people simply fell through the cracks. Men who are already conditioned not to ask for help often fell silently. Pain does not disappear just because a man refuses to talk about it. It changes shape. Sometimes it becomes anger, sometimes it becomes control, sometimes it becomes emotional numbness, and sometimes it becomes violence toward others or toward oneself. Many men repeat wounds they never healed. The absent father may have had an absent father. The shaming father may have been shamed as a boy. The man who cannot listen to a woman's pain may be unable to listen to his own. This does not excuse harm, but it does help explain why healing matters. Unhealed men often pass pain forward. Healed men begin to break the chain. Traditional masculinity has given men some important virtues: courage, discipline, sacrifice, responsibility, and loyalty. But has also carried a shadow. Many men were taught that vulnerability is a weakness. They were taught to be useful, but not known. They were taught to be strong, but not honest. They were taught to protect others, but not to tend to their own inner life. This creates a terrible contradiction. We expect men to be emotionally mature, but we often deny them the language and the support that create emotional maturity. This has to change. Highly sensitive men have something important to offer in this moment. We know what it is like to feel deeply in a world that often rewards numbness. We know what it's like to notice emotional pain before others name it. We know what it's like to carry sensitivity in a culture that often misunderstands it. But our task is not to save everyone. Our task is to model another kind of strength, a strength that listens, a strength that feels, a strength that tells the truth, a strength that seeks help when help is needed, and a strength that refuses to pass pain forward. There are 5 places to begin. First, normalize mental health conversations among men. Ask better questions. Create room for honest answers. Second, Reframe therapy as training, not failure. Therapy is emotional skill building. Third, build more men's support circles. Men need places where they do not have to perform. Fourth, teach boys emotional literacy early. A boy who can name his feelings becomes a man less likely to be ruled by them. Fifth, advocate for real mental health infrastructure. Mental health should not be a luxury item. It should be part of a humane society. The crisis facing men is not simply that men are angry, lonely, addicted, violent, or suicidal. These are often the symptoms. The deeper crisis is that too many men have been taught to live without emotional language, without support, and without permission to seek help before pain becomes unmanageable. The future of men's mental health will not be built on silence. It will be built when men finally have the courage and the cultural support to tell the truth about what hurts, and then to do something about it. Thank you for listening to Thoughts with a Sensitive Man. If you found this episode valuable, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might benefit. Your support helps us reach more highly sensitive men and those who care about them. Until next time, take good care of yourself.